Welcome back to Business Office Specialist. In today's video, we're going to be looking at formatting features in Google Slides. These different formatting tools can really help us to improve the professional look of our presentation and really help it to stand out against the very basic presentations we're used to creating in Google Slides. For our example today, we're going to be working with a sales presentation that's designed to highlight the tourism in Utah and showcase different reasons why someone might want to come and visit Utah as a vacation place. For our presentation today, we're going to be using 6 slides. The first slide is our title slide, which is already built for us. Now, in our previous presentations, we've learned how to create additional slides. So I'm just going to come up to the Create Slide button. The first one, as I said, is a title slide that's already built for us. The second one is going to be a title-only slide, so I'm going to set that up right now. And then the third one will be title and 2 columns, another title only, and then the last 2 are title and 2 columns again. So total of 6 slides, 5 slides, and a title. I'm going to come up to the title. And the title for this presentation is going to be Utah Tourism. And my subtitle is Exploring the Beehive State. Perfect. Now, right now I'm using the Simple Light theme, which is basically a white background with black and gray text. Not very exciting. If I wanted to enhance the look, I could use one of the other themes in the theme panel off to the right-hand side. And themes are awesome because it's just a very simple click and go. You click one theme that you like and immediately your whole presentation is set up in that style and you can move forward. The problem that I have with themes inside of Google Slides is there are very few of them. So if you're doing a presentation, for example, in a class, in school, or in a business setting, it's quite likely that the people viewing your presentation have already seen that particular theme over and over again. It's not exciting anymore, and it doesn't really draw their interest in. So especially if I'm doing a sales presentation, it is all about pulling their interest into my presentation. And so instead of using the themes, I would probably either upload a theme, there is an import theme option down at the bottom, or jump out there and create my own. And that's what we're going to do today. So there are different ways that you can create your own theme. We're going to go very simple today and just use the Simple Light theme we already have and just change the background on it. And I want to show you just how much of a difference a simple background change can make in the way your presentation looks. So for our first slide, instead of this plain white background, what I'd actually like to do is use an image as my background. Utah has so many beautiful landscapes. Let's start our presentation with an awesome image that wows people and gets them interested in Utah right from the beginning. So up at the top on the ribbon, there is a background icon. I'm going to click on that and choose to use an image. Now, we could upload an image or pull one from a camera if we wanted to. I'm actually going to go all the way to the right and look at the Google image search. And I'm going to search Utah and see what comes up. Now, there's several different awesome ones here, but that delicate arch is just kind of the icon of Utah, and I feel like it's a really good place to start for us. So I'm going to select that as my background image. Once I've clicked on it, I can click Insert, and it's going to load there for me. I can hit Done, and now I have my title slide. The problem is, though, that light gray for my subtitle doesn't really stand out anymore. So I may have to, depending on the image you choose for yours, you may have to change your font colors, maybe even font sizes and styles, and maybe the position they're in order to make them stand out. A busier background like an image will tend to blur out your text if you're not careful. So you may have to make some adjustments to make your text stand out enough that it can be easily read. So now I have my title slide, and already it's looking so much better. Let's take a look at slide 2. For slide 2, up on the top in the title text box, I'm going to write the title for this slide, which is What to See. I just want to introduce people to a few of the major highlights that they should see if they're going to be coming through Utah. So you can see that I don't have any other text boxes on this slide. So many times when we're creating a presentation, we feel like we have to take all of our notes and put them on the slides, and we just fill all of the slide with text. That's really bad when we're trying to do a oral presentation live, because what happens is your viewers are trying to listen to you and read the slide at the same time. And in the end, they're not really reading the slide and they're not really listening to you. And it's just a waste for them. And they're feeling overwhelmed. So instead of putting a bunch of text on there, instead we can put some pictures up there that help add to our presentation as a visual aid. And then we can talk about what we want them to know. And that's what we're going to do with this slide. I'm just going to put up a few pictures and a little bit of text to guide my viewer, and that's it. Now, we're still stuck with a white background. I could put an image in again, but if I put an image here as my background and then I put images on top of that, it's going to be way too busy and it's going to distract my viewers. So instead, let's just change the background color. So we're going to go back up to background, and instead of clicking on the image, I'm going to select color. Now there are a lot of different colors to choose from. Since this presentation is about Utah, let's choose a darker blue. The darker blue is the background color to the Utah State flag and will fit in really nicely with our presentation. So I'm going to choose a dark blue 2. Not too dark, just perfect. Now we talked about last time how having a darker background color with lighter text is easier on the eyes for your viewers, but here we've got dark background and dark text. That's going to make the text a little harder to see. So let's make our text pop by changing it from a black to a white. There we go. Already that's so much better. Now the next thing I want to do is put my images up here. So I'm going to go to Insert and select an image, and I'm just going to search for Utah tourism and see what comes up. So Utah's super famous for its beautiful landscapes. We've talked about that before, and there's a lot of them here to choose from. So I'm just going to grab one of them. I really like the Red Rock Country in southern Utah, so I'm going to grab that as my image and insert that on there. Just kind of throw that off to a side for a second. And then another really famous part of Utah is our snow and ski season. So I'm just going to type in Utah skiing, see what comes up. There's some really cool pictures. This one looks like something from the Olympics. That might be fun. I'm going to throw that in there. Kind of highlight our ski season. Make that the same height as the other one. And then I'm going to look at the Sundance Film Festival. Let's try that one. That's a really famous event that a lot of people come to Utah for. That one's really big. Let's bring that down to size again. Again, I'm just going to make that the exact same size as all the other ones. Now, you can see that these don't all fit on a page. And ideally, what I'd like to do is line them up horizontally side by side. So what I'm going to have to do is make them smaller. The easiest thing to do would be to crop the image. We learned how to do that last time, either using the crop image up here on the ribbon or double-clicking the image until the black bars show up. I'm going to try and make these as square as I possibly can. Now, once I've set one, the other thing I can do is just use that as a measuring tool. And these little blue lines that show up at the bottom and in the middle of my image help me know when I've exactly measured it to the same size as the one that's behind it. So I can get 3 images that are identical in size to each other pretty easily. And it's not that big of a deal if they're not perfectly even, but it does look nice. And then you can see as I'm dragging this one around, as soon as I evenly space the white space between the 3 images, those little blue bars show up at the bottom again, telling me that the space between the images is exactly perfect, and this image is centered between the other 2. And so those little bars are really helpful to get my images to look nice and even, which enhances the viewability of this and just makes it look more professional. I'm going to take these and drag all 3 of them exactly in the center of my slide, and now I've got my images up there. Now, if someone has never been to Utah, they probably don't even know what these things are. So the next thing I'd like to do is put some text down below them just to help viewers know what it is they're looking at. So let's come up and create a text box right below our first image. And I'm going to call this one State Parks. And then I'm going to change the font color to white. And the fill color on this, I'm going to change to black. Now, my text is up in the upper left corner. That doesn't look really great in this presentation, so I'm going to go to the alignment and move it to be center aligned horizontally. And then I can come down and do a middle alignment vertically. Now I'd like to create another one of these text boxes for each of my different pictures. If I wanted to, I could create them all from scratch, or if I wanted to do it faster, I could simply copy and paste this one a couple of times and move it to the new ones. So now I have my 3 images with text boxes below them that give a description of what each of them are. And then in my presentation, I can discuss the highlights of all 3 of these if I wanted to. All right, so that's our second slide. That's looking pretty good. Let's move on to our third slide. We're going to set the background color again. And change my text color. In fact, I'll do it to all of them at once. To white. And for this one, let's highlight Utah culture and art. So for this left column text box, we're going to create a bullet list to highlight just a few of the different things that are part of Utah's culture and art that tourists might be interested in. Now we could write paragraphs of text, but again, our readers aren't really going to look at that. So instead, what we can do is put bullet lists of specific items that we're talking about to kind of guide our conversation and help our listeners follow along as we're giving the presentation. So I'm going to turn on a bulleted list. And our bulleted list will talk about music and theater. Let's add film and art, since we have the Sundance Film Festival, sports, history, and food. Now our text is really small here. We'd like to make that bigger. So let's make that a size 24 font. That's better. And then we don't really need this other text box. We're going to delete that. Instead, we're going to put in a couple of images here. So we're going to go back to the web and insert some images that have something to do with one of these topics off here to the left-hand side. So where we're talking about music and theater, maybe the Utah Symphony would be a good one to put in there. Let's use this one here. Just going to shrink that for right now. And then since we're talking about sports, let's add the Utah Jazz. I'll take this court shot right there. All right. So now I have my 2 images. Right now they're a simple square because that's what they came in as. You can change the shape of your pictures though. It's called masking. Let me show you how masking works. If you click on your image and go up near that cropping icon, the right arrow facing down, right to the right of crop image is called mask image. When you click on that, you can see several different options to mask it. Let's use shapes and just create it as a rounded rectangle. Now it's just kind of cut out the corners of my image and made it look a little more round. Now if I'm not happy with that and I want to undo it, then I can click on the reset image icon right to the right of the mask icon that we just used, and it will return the image back to the way it was when it was imported onto our slide. Now let's go back in and make these an oval this time. So the oval doesn't look like an oval when you're looking at it on the screen. It's actually the circle icon right here, but it is called an oval, and you can see that if you hover your mouse over it for a second. So we're going to turn these into ovals. And then if we wanted to, we could format them and add the drop shadows that we added on our last slide. And you can see how that makes them stand out just a little bit better. Perfect. Now, the last thing I want to do is look at our text. We have 5 bullets of text on there right now. We're not going to talk about all 5 of them at the exact same time, and having them all up there at once can be very distracting to our listeners during the presentation. So ideally what we'd like to have is for each bullet to appear as we begin talking about them. We do that through what's called an animation. So let's add an animation to our bullet list. We're going to click on the bullet list, and with the bullet list selected, we'll go up to Insert and insert an animation. Animations are how objects or text appear, disappear, or move around the slides. In this case, we want them to appear. So because we clicked on the text box when we inserted an animation, it's already connected to the text box itself. And in the motion panel off to the right-hand side, we can see that we have it set up as a fade in animation. Let's change that. You have several different in and out animations that are available in Google Slides. We're going to just have these fly in from the left side of the screen. So they're just going to kind of slide in from that left side. We're going to have it do it when it clicks. So this just asks us when it starts the animation. We want it to start when we click the mouse. That way we have full control over when we start talking about that topic. And then right now, if I were to play this animation, you'll see that when I click the mouse, the entire paragraph moves in at once. We don't want that. We want each line to move in one by one. So if we say by paragraph, then each bullet will move in separately, and you can see that here. Now, as we talk about each bullet item, we can click the mouse and that bullet item will appear. So that's our animations. Now we have a really good slide set up for Utah culture and art. Let's move to the 4th slide. For the 4th slide, I want to highlight state and national parks. That's a big part of Utah tourism. Once again, we're going to go with our background theme of a dark blue 2 and change all of our text to be white. Now, once again, I don't have any images on this slide or text. This is a blank slide for me to build off of. All I want to do is have pictures from 4 of Utah's bigger national parks that we can showcase as we're talking about them. So I'm going to go back up to my insert and add an image. Let's start with Zion's National Park. There are some beautiful images of Zion's National Park. Let's just pick this one up here and insert that one in. That's a panorama. That's not going to fit. We'll have to resize it in a second, but we can get there. Let's go into Insert again. And this time, let's look for Bryce Canyon National Park. That's that famous Red Rock one. And then let's look at maybe Arches. That's a cool picture right there. And our last one, let's do Capitol Reef. All right, so there's some pictures that we can work with. I'd like to split them up so that they are kind of in 4 quadrants on the page. So now we've learned several different tricks with how to work with pictures. I want to use the animations for this one to help guide our viewers through the presentation of these 4 different parks. Now we've already learned how to use animations to make things appear, But you can have more than one animation on a single object, which would allow it to appear and then disappear when you're finished with it. Let me show you how that works. I'm going to pick my first image here, and since the motion panel is already up, I can simply click Add Animation. I'm going to make this one fade in. I'm going to make it fade in on click, and that's all I really need to do with this one for right now. So now I'm going to create a second animation. I'm going to click on my next picture. I'm going to add a fade in animation for that one. Same thing, it's going to be fade in, it's going to work on click. But now that that one's fading in, I can get rid of my first image. So I'm going to go back to my first image, add a new animation, and this time instead of fading in, I'm going to tell it to fade out. And instead of on click, I don't want to have to click to make the second one come in and click to make the first one go out. So I'm going to change this to fade out with the previous click. So now let me show you what that looks like. So now I click once and the first image arrives. Then when I click the second time, the second image is going to go in, and with that image, the first one is going to fade out, just like this. So now my viewers can focus on the second image. So let's go ahead and set that up for the rest of my images. So on image number 3, I'm going to add a new animation going in. And that means that on number 2, I'm going to add a new fade out with previous. And then on 4, I add a new animation going in. And then on 3, I add my animation going out with previous. So in the end, it looks like this. You start with a blank slide. I tell you my first one, then my second one, then my third one, then my fourth one. So now they're not distracted by the other images on the screen while I'm talking about that particular park. They're focused only on that park's image. On slide 5, we're going to kind of end our presentation with basic tourist information. Let's go ahead and change our theme and select all and change my text colors. So for this box on the left-hand side, this is what in the sales world we call a call to action. It is telling the viewer, what are you going to do now that I've got you excited? What I want them to do is to explore more of what Utah has to offer. Now I'm going to make that a size 24 again, make it readable by people in the back of the room. And just like our text boxes, let's go into the alignments, center align that, and move it to the middle of the page, just like that. Now, I'm telling them to go explore, but I haven't really given them a place to go explore. So let's add a place for them to do that. I'm going to create a link in here that they can click on if they want to go out and view more and explore more about Utah. So I'm going to go to Insert and click Link. Now if I search Visit Utah, one of the options that pops up is www.visitutah.com, which is the tourism site for the state of Utah. So we're going to click on that and link them there where they can go and explore more. Now, anytime you create a link, it's going to change your text color, which is kind of annoying because that's a really obnoxious color for my background. So I'm going to go back in and change my text color back to white again. Perfect. Now I don't need this second text box. We're going to insert something else here instead. In addition to adding images and text and links, another thing that you can add in here that is commonly added in presentations are videos. So let's go find a video that we could watch that would excite people about going to Utah. I'm going to insert a video this time and search from the YouTube See what comes up. There it is. There was a huge campaign several years back about the mighty 5 Utah National Parks. That's the one that I want to put on there. So I'm going to put that out there. And then if you need to, you can resize this however you need to fit on the screen. This one actually popped right in at the size I was hoping it would, so I'm going to leave it there. Now, if I wanted to test this, I could play back the YouTube video here. If you're doing this as a school presentation, I highly recommend that you test these to make sure that they work on your school network before you give your presentation. There's nothing more embarrassing than standing up to give a presentation and not having your audiovisual aids. Also, if you're using a really long clip and you don't want to show the entire thing, you can actually in here set it to start at a specific time and end at a specific time. So if your teacher tells you you can only use videos up to 1 minute, but it's a 12-minute video, find the minute you want to watch and have it start and stop at that specific time. Also, if you want it just playing on the background and you don't want the audio in there, you can mute the audio. And you can set it to either play on click or play automatically as you come into this slide. If you set it to play automatically, as soon as you click to this slide, it will load the video and start playing. So it's up to you how you want to do it. I'm going to leave mine as play on click. Awesome. That is really the end of our presentation, but I've still got one more slide. So I guess I didn't need that 6th slide after all. So if we wanted to, we could delete this slide out. The easiest way to delete it is to click on the thumbnail here on the left-hand side. These small images of our slides that help guide us through the presentation and understand where we are in the presentation are called thumbnails. So I can click on the thumbnail image, and then I can press either the delete or backspace key on my keyboard, and it will get rid of that extra slide for me. So in today's presentation, we've learned how to take very simple formatting features and enhance a Google Slide presentation. We've learned how to create our own theme by adding image backgrounds and our own color backgrounds and changing the font styles and colors. We've learned how to add images to the screen with text boxes, and we've also learned how to mask those images and use animations to allow the images and text to appear and disappear from the screen. And we've learned how to add links and videos as well. To learn more tools and features in the Google Suite family of apps, check out more of my videos on YouTube or visit ToriNorman.com.